dun 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 dun
Yes,
dun.
it's a dance tune from the
House
90s.
classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to the Sunday Roast and welcome Jimmy. Welcome back. This is your third, fourth Sunday
Yeah. I
Roast. You're
think we
now
did one. It was just me, you, and Madge, and then I think we did one with just some geezer. Was that two different ones? Or was that one? I can't remember. But yeah, we're
yeah, yeah,
happy to
yeah.
be back.
I'm very happy to have you back. How are you doing? How's
Very
life?
good. Yeah, very good, very good. Sort of recently moved to Brighton, so that's been like a big change, and that's been really exciting. It's definitely made me a bit more, in a way, optimistic about Britain, which is I sort of talked about this in a recent video. Is good and bad because on a personal level, it's really good, but I guess for my content and what I need to understand about the world politically, it can actually be quite like you're in a bit of a bubble here. So you're a bit like, oh, life's not so bad. Britain's got its problems, but it's not so bad. And you can become quite quickly detached from reality. But yeah, it's a really, really nice place. Weather's amazing today, last week, and it's just it's everything good about Britain in one place.
It's interesting because I saw that video. It's a good video. And it was interesting that you were like, if you come from Milton Keynes, to Brighton, everything's just an upgrade.
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah. It's so funny how like yeah, I was living in such like an efficient like without knowing it, I moved to like basically capitalism central. Like it was like a late stage capitalism town, like a town built around efficiency, all the moral beliefs of capitalism in one place. And I've now become a real like believer in inefficiency. I believe like some of the best parts of culture come from lack of efficiency. Like you, I don't know. I think about this in many ways, but some of the most beautiful, like that there's that song that goes, it's kind of like dun 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 dun
Yes,
dun.
it's a dance tune from the
House
90s.
classic, yeah,
Yeah.
house classic. And I was thinking, I was listening to that song for the first 2 minutes. You don't hear that bit. It's like just a house tune, but it's in the later half. It's like 2 minutes, 33 minutes where that comes in. And you imagine in the 90s, that song, the way it would have been introduced to people would have been in raves. So people are there, they're in the atmosphere, and they're there for good. They're not
Yeah.
like competing between an algorithm or something. And so that song has 2.5 minutes of attention to then give you some incredible end up where you're like, whoa, what the fuck? And then you want to listen to it again, come back, and then that sort of thing, if that song was made now, which they have actually made like a modern version of it, they have to front load that good bit at the first like 20 seconds because that's how sort of the modern world makes culture perform for it. It needs to be punchy in your face. Things have less time to brew, less time to like build. And I think when it comes to Milton Keynes, it was a city that was built around, okay, so everywhere has a load of car parks. You can drive everywhere. There's no traffic. It takes you 5 minutes to get everywhere. You don't need to walk. You don't need to like have any inefficiency. You can bang, bang, bang. And it's so like destroying. It like just
Yeah.
kills you. And you realize that the beauty in life typically comes in the inefficiencies. It's like walk into your local butcher or walk into, yeah, like a little coffee shop or something. Or you go to the butcher, it starts raining. So now you're stuck under the thing, you're talking to the guy, you're all laughing. The sun disappears, you run, oh, get to a coffee shop. Like that's really inefficient living, but that's where life comes from. And, I just sort of, without knowing it, I moved to Milton Keynes in a way because I was pursuing my career and it was just quite efficient to live there with three mates.
Mm.
It was quite cheap for us because we just like shared a place. But then when as I got older and I was less obsessed with like just building a career and I wanted to like, live a bit more, you realize it's soul destroying. So yeah, it's been quite insightful without meaning to be.
Yeah, I used to go up to Milton Keynes to the Snow Dome. That was about it. I couldn't really, and it's funny because you just roundabouts, 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 and even you commented in your video like, yeah, people talk to me about Milton Keynes and all they say is the roundabouts. Well,
Yeah.
now in Brighton, I assume there's only a few things that people, if you slightly referenced it when you talk to certain groups of people about Brighton, there's a
Yeah,
topic that
yeah, yeah.
always seems to be the thing that comes
Yeah,
up.
oh, the gays, is it? Is
Yeah,
that gay capital? They love all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's sort of yeah, I don't know. It's like just such an interesting town. Like, it has so much history, so much culture, and like I just can't believe you have all these independents. everywhere is just independence, and it's very much a market shaped by sort of middle class, young middle class, burnt out Londoner money. So
Mm,
like people go and make money in London, build a career in London. They develop the sort of London taste for food, coffee, clothing, theatre. They like have this quite young, modern, and cool taste. And then they get burnt out because obviously living in London can be very stressful. I think only people typically live there for like 5 years. And they want something similar, but they don't want the pressure of London. So then they move to Brighton. And so you have this flood of like young professional money that comes in. Maybe people work remotely. Some
mm.
people, very common story when you speak to shop owners, they'll be like, yeah, I used to work in corporate jobs in London. Now I open like an Italian deli. I know someone exactly that. Um, but so there's like, it's kind of like, yeah, a lot of young money. The young factor is quite interesting because when you go around the UK, you can go to wealthy towns, but there's old money, like, and their
Oxford and
taste.
Cambridge.
Yeah, well, yeah, even that I would say they've got a young it's more like the villagey bits. So it's like wealthy old people towns. So sort of Oxford and Cambridge I guess is salvaged because it has the universities, but like young sort of small villages where it's a lot of old people and all the shops close at 3, they're closed on Sundays, they're closed on Mondays. Cafes are always food that's been popular since the 80s. Like things have just stagnated. It's nice, but it's stagnant. Brighton doesn't have that because it's like got that younger money, which is interesting. But only so many places in the UK can attract that market. So it's a bubble. It's like it is what the future of Britain could be if we were a more equal society.
What Brighton is more than the rural villages that do
In my
full English.
opinion, yeah. Yeah, because yeah, exactly. Just because you've got young money, and that's quite rare in the country, to be honest.
Oh my God, yeah. Like I think there's a stat saying that a third of the UK has zero savings. I brought it up last week. A
Good
third.
God.
A fucking third. And then I think we're one of the highest for rental markets, probably one of the highest for mortgage markets, like 50% of income, I think it is. So you're going,
Uh,
all the money's going out of your pocket and you've got nothing left to save and no one's doing anything about it. And you start to understand why people are enraged the entire time and are looking for
yeah,
someone to blame. I like Brighton. I think you should speak to the council about advertising Brighton and doing an advert for them because like man, your
yeah,
videos are like, this is a very nice place and you're listening to you, you're a trusted figure, so people want to go, okay, if
yeah.
Jimmy's there.
I think there is a few YouTubers here as well, actually. I think Tommy Innit lives here. I know, like, I don't actually, should I be doxing people? I just know a few YouTubers that live here. And it has like I just started doing that podcast I was saying about, but I've just got a new studio, which is in Brighton. It's so convenient, man. Like, I would normally, typically, I'd drive or take a train to London. Actually, for that studio, I tend to drive because it's a bit more convenient for me. It's 2 hours. Now I can fucking walk 15 minutes. It's sunny, get my coffee. Like I'm walking to work and it's like 15 minutes away. So that's sick. I think, yeah, Brighton could become like a hub for probably creatives. I mean, it is already, but like for
It is already,
YouTubers
yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. And the parkour scene is massive here. Like the best parkour team, Stora, they're based here. And so all of the young freerunners moved here. So it's really like a lively, interesting place.
But Jimmy, in your video, you said that it was only dilapidated old places that have no one really liking the place. Like to do
To be fair,
parkour,
like
which is why Milton
Brighton,
Keynes was so good.
honestly, Milton Keynes wasn't very good, and that's
They're
because,
not.
and there's actually no, not for parkour, really. Like, there's a style of parkour you can do there, which is fun. I don't know if you want to have this podcast be about parkour, but it's very much American design, and American design is very spread out and distant, which isn't good for parkour. Parkour's good with the closeness, which is actually better for rollerblading and skateboarding, which has a
Mm.
more American tilt to it. So like they like skate along, jump, like ollie onto a ledge, grind it, move on to the next one. So Milton
I
Keynes used to
played
be
Tony
really
Hawk's.
popping.
I
Yeah,
understand
you
all of
get
that. I
it.
played Tony Hawk, so like,
Yeah, exactly. But like London skateboarding is
oh, they
insanely
hate it.
hard because it's like cobblestone streets and all this. So it's not ideal. So actually, it's good for skating, bad for parkour. It's a bit boring for parkour.
Do you ever try and do it in
Um,
Canary Wharf, or was that just too
you can't.
restricting?
You can't. You're literally illegal. I was talking to someone about this the other day, but
Mm.
like Canary Wharf is just such a fucked up place. It's like no, none of these patriots or none of the people on the far right, no, none of these people care. They talk about foreign invasion, foreign people coming over and destroying our culture. They don't care that the wealthiest, most influential area of London, the banking sector, is a privately owned area owned by Qatari royals that you have no freedom of speech. I know so many people are banned from it because like
Actually,
My
like
free,
they've got an actual ban. Like they've
yeah,
enforced something that says you turn up, you can't access the
yeah,
space.
my free running mates, so Stora, our parkour team, they went there to do a photo shoot. They've never done parkour there. They went there to do a photo shoot, and the security came up to them and said, "We know who you are. You guys are banned from here." They hadn't done anything. There had been people that had climbed stuff and got banned for climbing things. They hadn't even done anything, but they were banned preemptively because they assumed that they were going to climb on something. You have no freedom in Canary Wharf. It is fucking insane. Like if you wanted, this is the banking sector, so if you wanted to protest the banks outside the banks, you're not
Not
allowed to
allowed
do that.
to.
They have literally, it's like Hunger Games. They have created a privately owned space where all of the nefarious fuck shit can go on, and you have no ability to even go there to use your free speech to do anything about it. And no, like no one cares about that. Like that's not even a thing people care about.
It's funny because you've reminded me they did the same with a lot of the malls. You can't. Yeah, who's the guy who is hilarious, who does the DJing on a bike, and
Oh,
he also has a
yeah.
little piece of equipment because he's shown that there are laws that are enforced in areas which make no sense.
If you're going to come and enforce the legislation, best you know what that legislation is. I do.
3 officers and 2 armed policemen. It's not going to go anywhere, is it? Come and join me to the side,
I'm not
please.
obliged to leave where I'm standing.
Right, but you are
I'm not under arrest.
breaching park regulation.
What's the park regulation?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I can find out for
Okay,
you.
so how can you enforce a law that you don't know off the top of your head?
Fella,
We know the law.
fella,
The law is there.
listen, you need to turn this off
I do know
right
the
now
law.
and pack your things up.
For what reason?
Yeah? Because you're not allowed to be, this is a restricted area.
But I'm just asking you, what am I not allowed to do in this restricted area? Because if it's filming on my phone, that's what everyone else is doing. If it's playing amplified equipment, I can turn the amplified equipment off. But it doesn't seem like either of you know what the law is. So that's what I'm trying to ascertain from you guys. Either it's amplified equipment, which I get, because I do this everywhere and I know the law, or it's filming on a phone, in which case, all of these people need to go as well. So what's the law?
You're making this public.
Including the malls, where he'll go in with his DJ set and he will then be accosted by police. But there was another
Yeah.
one, the Stratford one, which is in East London. Ken Livingston, who, I don't particularly like, Ken Livingston was there fighting them about whether or not he was allowed to film there. And he was the mayor of London at the time. And he was saying, you can't say this is a private area, this is public, you're incorrect. But also he was pointing out this is really messed up that you've got these private entities owning huge swathes of land that are open to the public, sort of.
Yeah,
you've got the
the high
malls.
street. They privatized the high street through it. Yeah, I never really thought about that. But yeah. Also that's insane, isn't it?
It's actually insane. I don't know how that's legal. And yet, I mean, there's also the park, Queen Elizabeth Park, where they had the Olympics. That's privately run. That's entire private entity. There's no governance to it other than the
Yeah.
London mayor, technically.
I was
But
chatting with there's a guy, so yeah, part of Stora, this parkour team, his name's Drew, and he has a little like side project that he's just started called Public. And he, interestingly, like parkour's birthed out of public space. So it's birthed out of like council estates in Paris that were in a way quite oppressive, like to young people. There wasn't lots they could afford to do. But what they did quite well in these council estates was create public space. So you were allowed to, you would have communal areas. Like when you look at these big estates, many of which have been knocked down in London, they had lots of public area, and like you would have everyone's house, everyone's front door would like point out onto a garden, and that would be the communal garden. You could go there, and there was like gym, maybe outdoor gym equipment, outdoor play equipment, stuff like this, and there was just space that was not utilized to put housing on, but just for public communal usage. And we were talking about how now, obviously, many of these get knocked down, they get privatized, and what they are selling back to the public now is sort of mid-tier. Some of these are luxury housing estates, but a lot of them are just mid-tier. Big block of flats called living complexes, and they can be quite nice, but what they do is the same thing every place. It's like they have, ping pong table, pool tables, maybe some little events inside. And it's actually, some of them are really nice, little work areas, even swimming pools, gyms, and they're good, but they're private and it's only for the people that live in there, and it's enclosed. So it's not opened out to the world. You're not going to interact with other people. And it's like this strange switch from what we used to have, which was public access communal spaces now into privately owned places. And yeah, it's like there's something we're losing with that. The idea that it's public and free that anyone can go to, and now it's all privatized and tucked away and individualized. And there's something odd about that that private companies own as opposed to the council. Yeah.
Gated communities.
Yeah, it's that. It's that. It's almost yeah, like a sort of South Africanized kind of way of yeah, like you have your little area, it's nice, but the country, you're segregated everyone from each other, and
I
it's
lived
like it's
I lived
strange.
in I lived in Brazil for a couple of years, and that was interesting as well, sort of seeing how that segregation also took place. Because you had gates and fencing that was probably about 9 feet roughly on average in height, but you'd have an actual security guard on call 24/7 in a little cabin outside the front of the property. And
Yeah,
that was like for middle class people. That was not like the
yeah.
rich, because the crime was so bad. And I often
Mhm.
think to myself, this is what I'm starting to see here. Like you're starting to see these gated communities popping up more and more in the UK, limiting
Yeah.
who moves there and everything else. But the other thing is that, as you
The
said, like
video idea in that probably. It's like a quite. I've not thought about that,
you're
but
getting the pen
that
and
is.
paper out.
Yeah, yeah. I might have to take a note. Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's interesting because it is like, how did that happen in South Africa and Brazil? And we, we're sort of Western exceptionalists, and we just think, that's just how they live. But then it's like, obviously, there was probably a process that got them to that point, and probably we're in the early stages of that, where we start
Mm.
to see this eradication of publicly owned spaces that anyone can access into privatized, gated, and it is that. It's yeah, I've not really thought about it, but that, but it does seem like it's the beginning of a similar thing. Yeah,
Same with a lot of the gardens in London. You'll go past these like really rich estates, and they've got these fenced off gardens that are
yeah,
only for
yeah.
the people in the estate, which is
You need
so
the
wild.
code or you need a key to get in. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So, and it was interesting because you jogged my memory. Did you ever see the Layla Cunningham interview with Piers Morgan? And they had three other guys all talking about different types of subjects, but that got brought up by one of the guys on the show to Layla Cunningham, being
Hmm.
like, you're talking about these communities segregating themselves, like Gorton and Denton. They made up this crazy conspiracy theory that the Muslims in the area had like come together and forced everyone to vote in a voting booth that you is designed so it's secretive. Like you could
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
them to vote that way, but you will never actually know that they voted that way, which I
yeah, yeah.
found mind-boggling. But they were talking about these closed-off communities, and yet we're seeing that in the UK. Like no one, as you said, talks about Canary Wharf. Like no one
Mm,
talks about these middle class or upper class communities that are shut down. There's one near Hyde Park, which now has 24-hour security ever since Brexit. So you need to
wow.
have permission to go in through that little area, even though technically it's a public walkway. They will ask you
Definitely.
who you're going to see or what your purpose is. It's like
Yeah,
none of your fucking business.
there's definitely a video in this. You got my brain going now. There's definitely a video in this. Yeah, we went through this one housing estate, really nice area, and I was like, we were pointing out all the nice houses and driving past. It was sort of outer skirts of London. Big sign, somewhere on a wall which said like, "Stop the building of 250 new houses." And it's like that's what these people care about. Like they don't, yeah, they have their lovely, nice area, and they don't want new houses for. It's just so like individualistic. It's like such a poison in the British psyche, and it's not all of us because like a lot of British people love community and they love the collective, um, like space and people and doing things coming together, and they want to progress. But it's like there's just this strange class of, I guess, asset holders in this country that have become like radicalized into individualism. Like it's very odd, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, these people, incredible wealth. I don't know what they're doing in their individual life, but I can see that what they're organizing politically for political change is to stop other people coming and living in their area. And it's just strange. It's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's like a odd thing in Britain. But I do think it's that beginning of that similar trend that you were saying about in Brazil and South Africa, I think. And Gary actually talked about it. He was like, go travel to these places if you want to see what an unequal society looks like. And you're starting to see it. And because British people were just, yeah, I don't know, we're just fucking politically at least just closed off to the ability to see in the future. Like we just have this sort of like we cannot look forward more than 1 or 2 years. So they have no ability to like learn from other countries and see what can happen to nations because they just think we're always going to be how we are. We're the best. We're always going to be like what we are. And then slowly it declines and declines and declines, and no one can see where the end of the train's going, you know?
In the COVID report, they talked about how they hadn't paid attention to what was going on in Asia, who had already put in measures to deal with COVID, which is a form of SARS. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me in the comments. I'm happy to be corrected on that. But Korea and I think Japan had lower rates of transmission. So they were able to manage it better. And then when the vaccine came out, they were ahead of the game. But apparently, according to the report, they deliberately ignored what was going on in other Asian countries. There were even claims that there were comments made that were derogatory, being like, why would we listen to them? And it's fucking
and this mentality it also affects. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, just to point out, remember, Japan invented the Nintendo Entertainment System among many amazing technologies, and Korea, and they're going, why would we listen to them? And it's like, well, did you invent fucking Nintendo Entertainment System and Sega Mega Drive, a console that was powerful enough to get us, or equal power to get us to the moon, and they put it in everyone's house, and you're questioning their intelligence or their ability to deal with shit like this.
It's like, it's ironically the thing that will kill Britain is its inability to humble itself and look at other nations. Like, even just in business terms, like, go into Ukraine, you see how they run businesses way more efficiently. Like, these capitalists, they always talk about like efficiency and like, try and make stuff work better and no waste, cut the waste and all this sort of stuff. But like they don't understand, like there's sort of like an argument to be made there. Like I believe in the idea of like don't, if you can do things in a better way, like it has to be balanced. I don't believe you can just arbitrarily always follow efficiency in every aspect of life, but in certain things you can. And like when you go to countries that are sort of more newly their economies are growing, they do things without the baggage of the past, like the arbitrary rules that might have existed in businesses in the past. And they just go, well, yeah, why can't we, for instance, nearly every single business in Ukraine will have a Telegram channel and an Instagram page, and they don't build websites because, well, they might do, but they really don't think about making a website because you go on your Instagram, they'll have like, say it's a restaurant, it'll have the menu and opening hours in the first two pinned stories, right? Whereas what we would do in the country would be make a website. The website never gets updated. It's out of date. You go there, the thing's closed. And it's just little elements like that where they just look at the technology we have. They know how people use it because they use it. And then they make their businesses flow through that. Whereas we often do things in such an old, labored way. The fact that businesses don't all take card.
I'm gonna have to argue. I'm gonna have to argue. I think in some areas, credit cards and credit card machines, we were well ahead. I remember going to Germany a few years back, and most of the stores didn't have like a tap system. Which
maybe in Germany, but I'm like talking about in Ukraine. So you would go to a restaurant and this QR code system had been around for a long time. So you would scan the QR code, and then what they do, right? So you'd scan the QR code, you'd get your menu up, and they wouldn't do what we do, which is, okay, now they've got the QR code, we can fire 5 members of staff because now they don't need to come. So in Ukraine, they still hire the same amount of staff, but what they do, they go, well, that's freed up their time. Now they can clean the tables and make sure the service is really on point. We go, oh, it's freed up staff. That means fuck it, fire them. Now the tables are dirty and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that you can like pay on the thing and just in certain countries that are like, I would say, more developing nations, they use social media and technology in a way that cuts out, like, efficiency is good where it cuts out hassle of boring shit that doesn't benefit anyone. And so they use all these social media apps like that. Why should I need to ring you up when I can just message you in a WhatsApp thing? In the UK, some businesses will opt for that, but they just tend to leave it like, oh, you need to email us. And then you're like, oh, I'm just going to fucking lose the email. And, it's like so outdated, but like we don't look at these other, no one looks at like they go to Thailand or Bali or like Ukraine or, these kind of countries and go, well, what are they doing with their businesses? Because they're actually building the businesses in the technology era. So they've not got all the old ways of doing things. They're more modernized. So like learn from them. No one's doing that in the UK.
I can see it to an extent. Like I mean, I was going to bring this up with Norway earlier. Do you know that Norway, you've got right of passage through arable land? They can't stop you walking through there. Whereas in the UK, it's fenced off, hedged off, can't go through. Even with,
Oh, really?
yeah. Norway's quite ahead of that. But also, I'm pretty sure most banks have shut in Norway for over a decade. They went digital over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Whereas we seem to have only slowly caught up
Okay,
with
I
them.
have to ask you this question. I don't know where you want to take this podcast. I don't know if this is too much of detail.
I don't
But
mind.
where do you land on stuff like digital ID? I know it's deeply unpopular, but where do you land on it?
I'm not a fan of it because I'm a historian by trade.
Yeah.
Someone will take that tech and they'll have good intention, but the next government comes in and goes, right, okay, let's fight this over. Let's put a digital currency, and if you behave badly, we'll fuck you up. And let's face it, restore and
Yeah.
reform are the type of people to put that through. And I'll give an example. Brexiteers said we're not going to get rid of the farming subsidies. Tories come in and they go, well, we're changing the farming subsidies and we're going to make it about beautification of land, essentially. Like, we're going to make it beautiful and make it healthy, make it open to the countryside, put wildflowers in, and etc. Labour come in and they go, cancel that. It's a fucking stupid subsidy. So you've gone from the promise from one government to now you get nothing. And you're going, but you're all
Yeah.
saying that Brexit was the way forward. I mean, we can sort of debate over that, but it's the same with the digital ID stuff. I don't feel it's necessary. And I think, in many ways, look, you got a phone on you and you've got what? Have you got a watch that's a smartwatch? So
I
like,
don't, but yeah.
you could get that all tracked. You're tracked anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and then everything you're buying is tracked. It's all digital
Yeah.
anyway. So if someone really wanted to track you down, like, Reform are nuts in the fact that they keep telling us that crime has gone through the roof, right? And it's crazy and it's worse than it's ever been. I can't, did I do this? Did I do these stats with you last time you were on? I can't remember.
I know that yeah, crime is is not what it's down from the 90s. In the last year, like murder in London has come to like a 20-30 year low or something.
Yeah, so it's down from the 90s. Do you know what the worst? I'm going to throw it at you because I did it as a vox pop. It was quite fun just to see people's reactions. What do you think is the biggest crime in the UK right now? Like as like a
Is it
section of
is it
crime.
like online fraud or something like this, like scams or something?
Correct. It is fraud. It's fraud in general is the
Yeah.
biggest. Now, do you hear Reform talking about that? Like,
Yeah.
fuck no. How many shitty phone calls do you get a day
Yeah.
from dickheads who are trying to flog you crap that you didn't ask for and wouldn't
Yeah.
buy anyway? Like 3 a day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Same. So that's part of the fraud. And then what do you think the percentage is of that? So it's the biggest block. What do you think is percentage of all crime do you think that is?
I don't know why I think it's 20 to 30%, but I might be wrong.
50.
Fucking hell. And literally no one's talking about it.
And no one's fucking talking about it because
Yeah.
it's like what you've said in a number of your videos. These fuckers will just say migrants. It's like
Mm.
we could see there's like I think Gary Stevenson said this 1,000 times. COVID created the biggest wealth transfer to the fewest. No
Yeah.
one talks about that. He brings it up on Politics Live, and you look at the politicians' faces, and you're getting the impression they've never heard this. Someone's meant to advise you and give you information. You clearly never heard of this. And you're going, that's a big problem. History shows that as a problem. History has shown. Have you ever heard of the guy? Do you want me to go and do a history thing? Because I know you've sort of gone one way and I'm taking it in a different way.
You do what you need.
Yeah. You ever heard of the guy, one of the richest men in history, probably even richer than Elon Musk, called
Oh,
Crassus?
okay, that's not who I thought. Okay, yeah.
Who did you think? There's been
I
a
don't
few
know. I know
others.
there's an African leader who was like one of the.
Mensa Musa from,
Yeah.
is it the Mali Empire? I
I'm
think
not
it is?
sure. I'm not sure. I just remember seeing like some little meme. I was like, oh,
Oh,
interesting.
it's nuts. He basically traveled. I think he traveled all the way from the west coast of Africa to the east coast, and wherever he went, he had so much gold he destabilized the currency.
What the fuck? Insane.
That's a mind fuck. It's I'd love to know more about how he created that wealth. We know about Crassus. He started up a private fire service with slaves. He'd turn up at your house when it's on fire, and then he'd go, right, I'm going to pay this amount. But obviously, as the fire burns, I've got to pay less.
Wow.
Right? So
Yeah.
they didn't have to agree. You're fucked. There's no state fire service. So then he would then put out the fire, and then he'd have purchase of the property. He'd then go and get the smartest slaves he could find, get in architects, and redevelop the site. And that's how he made.
Incredible.
That's yeah. But
Was there that many fires?
in Rome, I don't know. I doubt there's even stats to show, but there must
Yeah,
have
that's
been to be able to
incredible, though.
make. But then it makes you go, how much of a cutthroat motherfucker was he? Was he just going
Yeah,
around
yeah.
starting fires? You're
Well,
like,
that's what
piss
I'm
him
thinking.
off.
He instantly is. It was obviously, yeah, it's a racket, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolute racket. The point being is that once they accumulate that wealth and they have that wealth, it's nigh near impossible to get it off them. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and you look at something like the French. I said it the other week. You look at the French Revolution. The lowest class was eating two. No, sorry, our poorest. I think 10 or 15% in the UK eats 200 calories more a day than the guys that led the French Revolution.
Fucking hell.
So you're going, and the king's being told this. You got someone making up a rumor that let them eat cake,
Yeah.
and it sort of fires up the crowd because like we want bread, and you're
Yeah.
telling us to eat fucking cake.
Yeah.
And in the end, you have to extract that, and I'm not advocating this. You have to extract that wealth from them by force because they
Yeah.
won't listen. And I feel there is an element here that's going on, and I think you touched on it in your last video, where they're not quite getting the problem. And instead of having the problem being pointed at these super rich people that have a lot of influence and can control a narrative and etc., they'd rather hit on the small people that don't have a voice and can't push back. I think in your
Yeah.
interview with Zach, I think you said it. When does GB News go and interview the refugees?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or when they do, it's like they've gone and they've found one guy that said something a little bit bad, and then that's the whole story. And it's like, yeah, it's utterly fucked, man. And it's like it's interesting seeing how inequality plays out in ways that I guess it's an abstract thing because you have to kind of understand economics a little bit and politics and power. And I think that's the thing that we're really politically stupid to is like power imbalances. Like that's the I notice you were sort of saying it about like fraud there. Our morality is built around like I guess direct intention sometimes. So it's like we consider. I remember when I was younger, I used to think like I actually specifically remember thinking this, hearing about, someone who did financial fraud going to jail and thinking I would like maybe ask my dad or something, I'd be like, would they go to the same jail as like a murderer? And I think it's maybe sometimes yes, sometimes no, mostly no. But I remember thinking like in my mind, I felt morally they hadn't done something as bad as the murderer. And that's because you're brought up in this sort of Western British culture and morality where it's all about kind of intention. So the guy, all they were trying to do was make money. That's all it like. And you don't understand, and we don't have this analysis of like second order consequences, and you are morally responsible for that. Um, if someone gets drunk, drives their car and kills someone, or yeah, I guess or something like that. You could say the same argument would be, well, they just got drunk and were trying to have a fun evening, and something went wrong, and they were.
Mm.
You could sort of avoid the responsibility or avoid it, but we kind of in the West we're so obsessed with intention, like it's almost this sort of like deeply liberal attitude of like, did they sit and go, all right, we want to make this money so that these people starve to death and die because they never sat down and thought that we somehow morally think that well that means they're not as bad as someone who directly went and killed someone. And it's like a strange thing ethically or morally, and I'm not like someone who really knows a lot about ethics and morals where that really is protective of a certain class of people. So like a lot of the worst damage in the world and the worst things in society are created by that second order consequence. Like the incredibly wealthy person and their control over an economy creates the conditions of squalor, which creates the murderers. But because we believe in this sort of more like first order thing, we morally punish the murder and poverty. And I guess like the leftist analysis is sort of like understanding the chain of events and things, and obviously we get the critique that we let people off the hook or something, or we don't want to. Yeah, we're soft on it, but it's like, but we've built this morality in this country that creates these conditions, and we don't seem to have the same feeling toward a financial fraudster as we do a murderer, even though the financial fraudster creates, in many ways, eventually, creates sort of like, maybe someone will kill themselves as a result of it, or it causes poverty in a country that causes gangs, causes drugs, causes all this sort of stuff. But because they never sat down and planned it out, we, for some reason, consider that very different. I don't know. I haven't really like thought about it much. I haven't read about that sort of stuff much, but it is an interesting thing about Western morals that's like hard to. It's very protective of a certain class. Like the wealthy person is then always protected, sort of.
It brings me to 2008, and it makes me think of the monarchy as well. So in 2008, there was a major crash. Did anyone go to jail? After the 2008 banking collapse, how many bankers actually went to jail? In the UK, just a handful were convicted, and very few served any time. In the US, ground zero of the crisis, only one banker was imprisoned. Globally, around 47 were sentenced to jail, half of which came from Iceland alone.
Exactly, that's what I mean, yeah. And it's like that has literally caused wars, that has caused like suicides, that has caused people to starve. It's like it's destroyed the world, but because they never went, oh, we plan to destroy the world. Because they didn't like say that, then for some reason it's put in a different category. Like, why are they not all life in prison? Like all of them.
You still have manslaughter though. I mean, you literally manslaughter is
yeah.
Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but it's you killed someone, but it wasn't with intent, and so therefore there's a different degree. It's not that you're an evil person; you just did something very fucking stupid, and that had a consequence that caused someone to no longer exist.
Exactly.
But there's still a consequence to that. I didn't see that with the banking. From everything I've read, they were greedy fucks. They just kept wanting more. And in the end, and in part, there's issues with the legal system because it says that you're beholden to the stockholders and to provide them the biggest profit possible.
But that's it. They make all of these like culturally. We've built our entire morals and ethics around capitalism, effectively, so that there's so much chain of it was his fault, it was his fault, it was someone else's fault, someone else's fault. So you never can, and that's like an imperialist logic. Like that's how we did atrocities in colonial era, is because no one could say it was that guy. It was like it was always there was another incentive, and that incentive was sort of like buried in the back. It's made invisible. Like someone at some point chose to do it. Like we went there, we chose to do it. But no one gets pinned on the blame of any of it. So no one, and that's like how we've structured our even way of thinking about morals and like who's wrong and right. In some countries, they would like probably see, they wouldn't care about your intention. If you've caused this problem, you would be held responsible for it. I know like China treat fraud, like billionaires and stuff, or they treat them very, they have them under the state's thumb for sure. At some points, anyway, and it's like their morality is different, and it's I don't know. Our morality seems to be built around protecting that class.
Well, you know what I'm gonna switch. I don't want to switch to, but I'm gonna switch to, which is the Manosphere with Louis Theroux, because the way I see it is that immorality that you've just been talking about, where it's literally just the money. That is HS Tiki Toki. That's all he is. Like he like. When you were talking about the empire, I was just instantly thinking about the East India Company. Have you come across this?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first, to my knowledge, it's one of the first modern private companies with stockholders who literally just did anything for money, including selling opium to China, which is how we ended up with Hong Kong. Because the Chinese went, no, can you stop sending us opium? And they went, no, and we'll kill you. And force you to take more opium that way. And you're just like, that's fucking insane. No one talks about that. Like, that's like Wayland Corporation. Like, I don't even know if Wayland Corporation in the Alien franchise was selling drugs to the fucking to one section of the world. I mean, they wanted an alien, but you're just going, all they could think about was the profit of getting the alien on board and then releasing and turning it into a bioweapon. And then essentially monetization.
Burke, I don't know which species is worse, You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
But just to go back onto the Manosphere, like I was listening to what he was saying, and it was like, right, so you're just doing it for the grift. Like it's just
And
the
he's overt about it. He's like not even trying to hide it. And yeah, but it's like because we have this morality around like, well, success is success and success is fundamentally good. That's how we see it. And then you can't like we just sort of accept it like and it's I don't know. I was actually I was talking to Drew. Like I just did this podcast, Drew Story Guy. We're both talking about how like you're sold when you're young in this country that to be happy is even some people you could make a quite surface level critique and say money doesn't buy you happiness or something, and we're always sold like it's the idea of money or something, and then if you have money you're happy, but there's a bit more to it than that, I suppose. It's like when you're young you're told being wealthy um, will get you things, and those things are nice, like cars and stuff. Also having beautiful wife, but then it's also things like status and mattering, so being important. So like one of the things I always felt when I was young is I will feel good, I'll feel successful when I've built a name for myself, I've done something impactful in the world, very purposeful, and that's like a thing that you should pursue. And that sounds a bit different. Like if you say, follow money, money will buy you happiness. It's quite easy to swap that away. But when you say like, well, build something big and important, and so people want like think about you, or you leave your mark on the world, that's a little bit harder to argue with. Like I think a lot of people would say that that's like a thing to follow, like something that makes you build some status or something in the world. But like when I was talking to him, and like I in ways I've experienced it myself, I think I've had slightly less trouble with it. But he in his 20s became very successful. He built his dream career of being like a professional free runner, making content with his mates where they would travel around the world and just do the craziest shit, and they were filming it. And said he was on set of a Michael Bay documentary that Michael Bay was making about his team that he was involved with and helping and like directing. And he was on a phone to his like therapist because he was like going for a bit of like a struggle with, he didn't quite know what it was, but he said he was on the phone, and they were like, the therapist was like, "What are you up to today?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just on the set on the Michael Bay thing. We've got like 4 hours of shoots, and it's all sort of." And then the therapist was like, "You don't sound very happy about that." And he like had this moment where he was like, "He's like, yeah, I guess I'm not happy about that." And it's like, yeah, that's a slightly more hidden thing in like capitalism, of this idea of like building a name and being important. And when you follow that, and you can put so much energy, you might destroy relationships, you might destroy your body, you might destroy your mental health in order to get that. And that's not necessarily just about money. That's about like status.
yes.
And then you get there and you go, like, I'm not even fucking that happy about it. Like at a certain point, I think along the career trajectory of being a content creator or being like an influencer or something, the up is exciting because it's like you're developing yourself, you're proving yourself, you're like achieving things. But once you get to a level of stability where you're like, okay, you have achieved it, you are now someone who has a platform, a voice, then everything's just work. It's like, well, now I'm just doing this thing because there's not as much excitement because you haven't achieved as much. Because once you've proven to yourself that you are a person who can achieve things, then any new achievement doesn't really excite you that much. But that's like a sort of hidden thing in our, I guess, what you're sold as a young person.
Can I
Yeah, go on. Sorry,
can I
sorry.
give you no, it's fine. I'm happy, I'm more than happy to listen. Two ears, one mouth. But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was just because you said money can't buy you happiness. It made me think of that Spike Milligan quote, which is money can't buy you happiness, but it does bring you a more pleasant form of misery.
Yeah, well, that's the basically the point is that there is a certain level where you get stability, and that's the thing. It's like stability, balance, life, like friends, family, good food, good exercise, having things in balance and harmony, and also a career that brings you a feeling of purpose is also part of that. But like what I'm trying to get at is like kind of the more nefarious argument in capitalism is maybe we've got to the point where we start to understand money alone isn't the be all and end all, but we still have this sort of drive to matter or be really important. And that's like the thing that doesn't necessarily. And so yeah, I think we're like HS Tiki Toki and all these kind of guys. There is an element where I think it's probably quite apparent, even if they make it out like it's having these things, the cars and that. I don't reckon every young guy listening to him is like, I really want this car, I love this car or something. I think there's an element that they just want to be like listened to. They just want, like, when they look at HS Tiki Toki and Andrew Tate, they're like, the whole world is listening to them and paying attention to them and cares about what they say, think of it. They have such an important, they say jump, and then like a million kids will jump. And it's like, I think that's the thing that a lot of young people are probably attracted to, is the idea of mattering. But the irony is, mattering doesn't really, like, when you actually get in that position, it probably doesn't fill you with the same joy you think it's going to, really.
I feel like, oh god, there's so many things to compare it to. Like, there's Gordon Gekko in, I think, the movie called Wall Street, I think it is, Michael Douglas, where he says greed is good. And that really sort of sent a bit of a shockwave through in the 1980s. Then you've got American Beauty, which unfortunately has Kevin Spacey in it, but it's an amazing movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Where he's like, it's just stuff. It's just stuff. There's us. We're real. This is literally just stuff. And that sort of critiquing of like what it is to be like the American dream, and is it really like living in this quintessential life that doesn't particularly make you happy? And I guess there's also Fight Club, which is very similar to this Manosphere stuff. Sort of like trying to tap into something. And a lot of people criticize the movie Fight Club for being toxic masculinity. I always looked at it as a critique of that and saying that it's bad. But some people seem to have taken it away and gone, no, it promoted it. And to a certain extent it did. There were fucking fight clubs. Like, people set them up after seeing the movie. It's like, like, you really didn't read into what that movie was trying to tell you and what.
Well, I could think, if anything, it's because we're so like there's such a glorification in culture of like hyper masculinity anyway, like war, fighting, attack, that even a film that is trying to show how stupid that is, still you come away like, yeah, I kind of want to be in Fight Club. But that's us as a culture. That isn't the film. The film is actually critiquing it, but it's your interpretation because it looks cool, because we have been so taught this idea that war, conflict is cool. That's us. That's like a critique of yourself when you watch it, that you feel like, I remember watching it when I was young. I was like, yeah, sick. I want to have that with my mates. But that's like that's almost the film doing its job. It's like, even if I'm showing you how ridiculous this is, you're still enamored with it.
Yeah, it's true. Or train spotting and still taking heroin. Obviously, it's not as simple as that, but the warnings are there. The Manosphere stuff, I think there's that element of capitalism. I think there's an element of they're selling insecurity. Like, there was a real clip. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
You know that bit where he gets Louis to hit the punching bag? There was him wanting to try and be like ultra masculine, and that's part of his game. And he's selling that to his audience. But there was also an element of getting Louis to do that. And just before Louis hit the punch, he shouted out a word, which I'm not going to repeat on here. And then he failed, and then he mocked him. And it was almost like you could see that he looked down on Louis for the lack of muscle that he had. He was trying to make him feel insecure. And you could see it on Louis's face that he was a bit irritated that he didn't land a good punch. There was like a very quick grimace, which, is normal. I mean, most of us would want to hit that and get a good score. Like, that's the point of the game. The interesting thing I found within that was like how that was, to me, what he'd done throughout the entire thing. He's selling you insecurity. He's showing you, as you've touched on, that he's got a great life, and so therefore you should listen to him and his ideas. But actually, listen to the stuff that he's selling. It's like the quack you were telling me about in the 1800s in Brighton. Like, it's bullshit. He's just selling bullshit. There's nothing there. There's no actual program or plan or anything else that I could see. Like, get fit, great, yeah, do it. Get fit. Everyone should do that. That's not the fucking solution to what these guys are looking for. And in part, it's what you were saying earlier about the system itself being the problem. A lot of people are stuck at home. Well, why is that? And living with parents? That doesn't exactly exude certain things that you'd want. I can imagine a lot of people being uncomfortable about bringing someone back to the house for a variety of reasons. Nonetheless, your parents hearing you with someone that you've brought back. And they might not allow it. So then you've got all these issues that have come up
And they make you feel
Go on.
pathetic, like if you're in your mid-20s and you're living at home with your parents and you have to go like, you want to date this girl and you're like, oh yeah, my parents are still in, so maybe we have to meet on a different day. It's like having that conversation. Meanwhile, your dad was married and had kids at 22,
Yeah.
23. And it's
House,
like,
car.
I am a child, and that's like all the while you've been told you need to be a man. And it's like, you do not feel like a man. So then you try and find elements to like, in that sort of economy where the game is so competitive, you then find where you can win, I guess. And it's like my wife always says this, like power is made up of either money, physical strength, or intelligence, and so you'll compete in the plane that you can compete in. And definitely for young guys, like physical strength is probably the easiest to access. You just need a gym membership. So then it's like, okay, if I can't be wealthy, or maybe they try, but if they can't be wealthy, maybe intelligence is also very hard. Some people compete on intelligence. Like everyone knows that smart guy who is just a dick, because they use their intelligence to gain a feeling of superiority to everyone, and that's a thing as well. Same with money, you get like people that just flex on people. So then the most accessible is like this hyper masculine thing, because if you can be what HS Tiki Toki is he makes people look weak. He makes Louis Theroux, an established, well-respected, documentarian. People love him. He's like a national treasure. He's loved. In that instance that you're describing, he made him look inferior. And so, like, some young lad can watch that and go, well, I might not be smart, I might not be able to make money, but if I become like this hyper masculine, aggressive guy, and I start becoming like physically strong, but also like mentally very combative and very like every conversation is a competition to show my assertion, then you can feel a sense of power in that. So it's like if we make a world which tells young lads they need to be powerful, and that can manifest in the many different ways, but then you restrict the ability for them to do it economically, to like find a position or status in society through having a good job that can get them a house and kids, where maybe they'll grow up and mature and calm down. In those early 20s, then you're going to start looking for ways in which you can. It's the same reason why a guy becomes a drug dealer. Like, I always think, a lot of drug dealers tend to be young guys who maybe they struggled in school, and they know that they could probably earn more money even with no education, getting a job. They probably could still earn more money. But there's a feeling of status and power that you get from being a drug dealer, is that people are waiting on you because you're always fucking late, and you'll rock up 3 hours time. They'll be there, they'll wait, they'll give you respect, because at the end of the day, in that encounter, they want the bag of weed, so they'll give you respect. There's a little bit of fear around you because you probably are dangerous. You probably
seem to know a lot about this.
I've been 20.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. But they just like so it's a shortcut for a certain type of young lad to get status. Even if their car's on rent, if they're potentially going to go to jail for 5 years and fuck their whole lives, they might even know all of that. But we care so much about status, and what status is mattering. We care about mattering in a society, and like in a smaller, more communal society, which was less capitalistic, which was like maybe an agricultural society or something like that, you would just probably matter because you existed in the society. And it would be like there's less of this sort of like, the most important person in the more organic society would be like, I don't know, the religious leader or like the elder. And he's like probably lives fairly similar to even the most bottom person in that society, Whereas in now, it's like the most important person is like a super hyper millionaire. And then you're like, I can't even invite a girl around my house because my parents are in. It's like that difference of mattering and status in society is so far. That you create just this sadness in people who just want to fundamentally matter. I think that's what a lot of it comes to.
But then because of that, they're then wanting to dominate half the population.
Yeah.
So they go, because now you're second to me, then I've got higher status, therefore I feel better. And it's bullshit. It's literally bullshit. And then, I was listening to, is it Myron Gaines, the other one? And
Yeah.
Louis just dispatched of him in 2 seconds, because all he did was bang on about looks and body count, which I've never heard before. But body count to me, I mean, I wrote a book on the Vietnam War. Body count is the number of people that died. Like, what the fuck are you saying by calling it a body count? The number of people you slept with. I was like, what the fuck? That was really fucking bizarre. like weird twist in terminology that they brought in. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then Louis was just like, well, that's not the relationship. You're not always attracted to someone just on their looks. Like, do they make you laugh? Have you got the same ethics? Do you have the same morals? Do you have a
What
good
was it?
sense of humor?
Was it Myron Gaines? Was it it was Myron Gaines, was it? The black lad, was it?
The Nazi, yeah. He's a fucking
Yeah,
Nazi. Like
yeah, yeah.
I got the hints and then I went and did some research. There's full clips of him handing out Mein Kampf on his show. And then he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
I'm like literally listening to what he was saying. And it's like, yeah, that
Well,
sounds like Hitler,
I
that
think
sounds like Hitler.
this is where I think we can probably bridge the conversation actually is because I was talking to someone like quite a big creator the other day and he was like talking about maybe making something around the Manosphere because it's like a good idea to do it in this time when that documentary's come out. And they were asking me like, do you know some new red pill guys that aren't so big or something? And I was thinking about it. I was like, actually no, because that is kind of slightly started to well, it's died really. Like there was a few people that became really big and now it's kind of washed. Like you're not really every time market saturation, market differentiation pressure or something like that. So now that the red pill manosphere thing has been done, it was perfected under Andrew Tate. It's like been done, you can't do it again. So now you have to move to the next extreme. And I was thinking more of these young lads are not doing red pill stuff. Now looks maxing, it's been a thing,
Mm.
but that's like the next evolution. But the one really is fascism. Like you are seeing so many of these young lads now on Twitter making like profiles where they talk about the ethnic replacement of the white Brit and all this, and they're like they got their flags up and they're posting fashcore, you know, like those edits that the White House put out where it's like got the VHS filter. It's sort of like vaporwave stuff, but it's now like fascist stuff. They post all of this. Now the next obvious thing is to be like strong man is to be like basically a Nazi. And so I think really like where this is going now is the fascist stuff. I think that's you got a load of smaller people who are coming up now who are not mainstream yet, who are just super far right ethno nationalists,
Mm.
and they do the same thing of like domineering. It's got all the same threads, it's got all the same stuff that like what the red pill is trying to tell a young man is
Mm.
important. It's the same thing, and it's just the next obvious logical conclusion. That's where it's all going to go now. It's all going to be. You've got obviously Nick Fuentes is well known for it, but there's going to be more of them because that hasn't been that vein of the mine hasn't been tapped yet. Whereas the red pill stuff is kind of washed, like they've done it.
Do you think there's any hope of that being stopped? Do you think there's hope for the UK?
Mm, I think it's gonna happen. But I don't think I do think it's so terminally online that it's so detached from most people. I think it will have an impact. But I actually personally like my genuine belief is I think this will be the downfall of the right in the UK because I think that Restore and what this sort of further to the right thing is doing is going to split the right, but it's not a strong enough coalition because there's only so many people. It's very much an identitarian based movement that attracts a certain type of young lad or like a really like kind of old school fascist, but a certain type of young lad who just like they don't know who they are. Like I think there are many kids that are just like trying to build an identity. That's why when you watch it, it's so identity based. It's all about the flag. They all wear like a zip up corduroy, like sort of not corduroy, like a half zip or something like this to sort of seem a little bit sophisticated and aristocratic. There's another guy who's like got a mustache to look a bit like Oswald Mosley. And it's very much got it's just aestheticization. It's not really like true politics. It's mainly an aesthetic appeal. They all their Twitter is like, they've got some old image of like a crusader holding a sword. They've got the flag up and they're
Yeah.
sharing these images, these videos that are like 1950s Britain with a VHS filter being like, this is what they took from you and stuff like that. It's an aesthetic movement. And I think that gives a young guy a certain identity. You are a white Brit, patriot, descendant of this great race that gave the world this, blah blah blah. It's all just an identity movement, and that's going to appeal to people in an identity crisis, which is young lads, and maybe some older people that are also a bit like that. But like in general, that isn't going to be so powerful to the middle class person who owns a house who just doesn't like the foreigners that much. They're not going to be like, okay, yeah, we need to. Their identity isn't so at stake that they need to return to being some kind of like ethno whatever the fuck. So I think it's really like the algorithms basically pulling apart the potential power of the far right through this continuous need to one up each other and create new content that differentiates itself from the saturated point of the past, which is maybe like reform. So my personal opinion, and also the fact it's not actually that popular, Greens are like flying ahead. And I think the UK is uniquely different to a lot of the, like, say, America, but also Europe, where you're seeing, right? Sorry if I'm waffling, but it's just
No, you're on track, man.
yeah. So the Europe have, I think it's 1 in 5 young lads across Europe are supporting far right parties. America, it was like 54% of young lads swung to Trump. That's massively different. And then in the UK,
Not anymore.
yeah,
This
well, yeah, and
fucking
then it's
tank
just
is
yeah,
balls.
exactly. But that's the thing. These things, because it's so identity based, and young lads are in such flux. Like if you look at Sneeko in that documentary, he was like a liberal, and he was like, he was wearing dresses, and then he becomes hyper masculine. It's like young men's identity are not defined like until sort of now. It's like really kind of your 30s. And so like it's so identity based that maybe they'll have moments where they can win or do well, but it'll lose. Anyway, so to distinguish Britain, it's like young lads in Britain are very, very far left. Very, very far left. They're super in favour of the Greens. And I think it's because we've done 16 years of just following right-wing politics. And every one of us young lads are like, Brexit, immigration. We have only talked about that. Whereas America and maybe Europe, it's been a little bit different. Like we've done a thing and then we've seen the results of it. So we did a far right thing, leave the EU, based on an immigration thing. And what happened? Was there any benefit? No. So I think for a lot of young people, it's like, well, that's been our whole adult lives. That's been our whole lives of politics. And it doesn't work. So I think we're in a slightly different position in the UK where I don't think it's as. I'll give you one more fact. Sorry, I will shut the fuck up.
Go.
One more fact.
2 ears,
Is
one
that
mouth.
yeah. Andrew Tate's like young British people, only 13% of young British men like Andrew Tate, and 73% believe that misogyny is a big problem in the UK. So
Wow.
I don't think it's as big of a thing, but for a certain subsection of men, it is.
Which has always been. I mean, it's pretty hard to eradicate something like that, even though, I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny. Like, you've got all these major parties. I've not heard one of them bring out a poster or a policy or a slogan being like, let's kick racism out of Britain. Let's kick misogyny out of Britain. I mean, those are clear. Who's going to argue with that? Because if you argue with that, then you're going, okay, so you're a misogynist then. Like, okay, you're arguing with that, then you're a racist then. I mean, what's, reform? I pointed out to you earlier, like the 50% of fraud, but he's talking about a minor crime like area. Like, why is no one talking about this? Like, that's the biggest crime. No one wants to talk about it. One thing, when you think of the right-wing papers that backed us and going with Trump into Iran, and a couple of right-wing groups also backing that, political groups backing that, what did you think? What did you make of that?
Yeah,
I
definitely
felt,
a massive misstep in it.
but I don't. Yeah, but if there's, we saw what happened with the last Iraq war, and it was a massive backfire. But the papers pushed it. Now you've got all these social media content makers, and they're going, "No, fuck this!" Like, it's like the papers were completely out of step.
Yeah, and like I think Reform, like their whole messaging around it was so confused, they didn't know what to do. Like they instantly come out being like for it. And this is where Restore are going to be. I actually almost appreciate that Restore exists because I think it will. I don't like this is my optimistic take. So let's just hope that I'm right, because obviously this is like playing with fire a little bit, but Restore are more in tune on certain issues like things like war than Reform are. So then they like open up the critique of Reform, and so my hope is that it just becomes too untethered of a coalition to do anything popular, or do anything to gain power. So yeah, like Restore were anti Iran war, and Reform had to shift position because they were like, yeah, we need to, why it's embarrassing we're not helping the Americans or something. And so yeah, their sort of subservience to America is their weakness actually, because Donald Trump's become so unpopular. And just American positions are really, I mean, I just don't, they're not in favor of anyone. Like no one benefits from it. So like, yeah,
He
but
literally
they
he threatened Canada, he threatened Greenland, he put on tariffs on the world, and then when he starts a war for no fucking reason, he then comes hand in cap and goes, "Please, sir, can you please help
yeah.
me?"
And it seems like there's probably, I don't know,
No.
even the capitalist class. This is actually thinking about it. It's sort of almost, I'm doing the thing where you're liking Trump to Hitler. But Hitler, it was a similar thing where all the big businesses thought they could get behind Hitler, and then they thought they could keep him in check, but he was too fucking insane for them
Never
to keep him
works.
in check. Yeah, and so
Never
they
worked.
almost,
They always think that. They thought that with Mussolini. They thought that to an extent with Hitler. I think Franco as well. Like they'll get the big businesses and they don't. China, Russia, Putin's the other classic. All the
yeah.
oligarchs got straight behind him, thinking, "Oh yeah, we'll get behind him. He'll do what he says." And then he just starts clamping down on them if any of them show a bit of
Yeah.
hostility or argument with him.
Because ultimately, actually, even for the capitalist class, like all of this stuff is not that ideal. There will be certain businesses like that will probably benefit from it, but in general, and this was, I guess, what Brexit was like a confusing battle of. It was like this. I think George Monbiot, called it like the warlord capitalist versus the sort of like house trained capitalist, and it's sort of like there is a class that benefit from deregulation instability, which is like crypto or gambling and oil and blah, blah blah. But then there's a lot of businesses that need stability in order to like operate. But increasingly, like I think even the ones that were benefiting from the instability, like now probably in America, are like, okay, this is getting a bit insane. Like I don't know how. I suppose it is always good for the oil companies, but like ultimately cutting off the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know who. They definitely must benefit some people, but like, it
Oil.
seems like the global. So like, at some point, surely the capitalists are like, this instability means that we're actually losing out in terms of like long-term growth. But that's the thing. Capitalism and quarterly profit is like so short-sighted. It cannot. It has structurally cannot look forward, and so you just do the dumbest things ever just to make money in the short term. Right?
We do need more long-term planning. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to end. I'm so sorry. Jimmy, you're fucking awesome, man. Like, what a good chat.
That was good
Thanks so
fun. I'm
much.
sorry if we went off in so many directions. I don't know if you planned that, but yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed chatting.
Yeah, me too, man. Please check out Jimmy's channel. Link is in the description. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.
Be sure to tune in next week for another exciting story from the files of Police Squad.